If you are married, there are basic lessons you ought to have learnt about marriage from personal experiences. If you are not married, it will be in your interest to learn the basic lessons on marriage before settling down, because you can do so from the experiences of numerous married people around you. The basic lessons on marriage will be helpful to you if you honestly desire to enjoy a happy marriage. The basic lessons on marriage are as follows. 1. You should prepare for marriage before you go into it, not when you are in it. According to Brian Tracy, effective performance is preceded by painstaking preparation. Your preparations for marriage determine your success in marriage. In fidelity to the age-old aphorism, he who fails to prepare prepares to fail. Unfortunately, many people prepare for their wedding, but not for their marriage. But wedding is for a day, while marriage is for life. 2. A happy marriage does not occur by luck, fortune, chance, or accidents. Nothing just happens. Rather, people make things they desire to become realities when they are deliberate about achieving them, and also take the right actions to make them become realities. Anyone who sincerely desires a happy marriage should work hard to make it a reality. You achieve a happy marriage through conscious and deliberate efforts. 3. Husband and wife are jointly and primarily responsible for the success or failure of their marriage. Husband and wife should jointly accept 100% responsibility for the success or failure of their marriage. You should not expect your parents, siblings, uncles, aunties, cousins, nephews, nieces, friends, and so on to accept responsibility for the success of your marriage. This is the reason couples are praised when their marriage succeeds, but blamed when their marriage fails. It is up to you and your spouse if your marriage will succeed or fail. Couples will enjoy their marriages when they jointly make the necessary sacrifices that are expected of them. Though it is usually said that the grass is greener across, the grass is actually greener where you water it, and that could be your own garden. If husband and wife water the garden of their marriage very well, the grasses in it will be fresh and green at all times. It is worthy of note that only you and your spouse can water the grasses in your garden. 4. Mutual sacrifices are the foundations of a happy and successful marriage. The strength of a house is largely determined by its foundation. You cannot build a strong house on a weak foundation. This also applies to marriage. Though a marriage can exist with the sacrifices of only one party, it is unlikely that the party will be happy in the marriage. It is foolish of anyone not to be committed to his or her marriage by making the necessary sacrifices expected of him or her. Marriage is exclusively for responsible people. 5. No one can destroy a marriage when the partners resolve to live together in peace. When a husband and wife resolve to live together as one, in peace, love, and unity, they can effectively resist any attack on their marriage from any source. But when they do not know what they want in marriage, but always attack themselves, their marriage can easily be destroyed by any attack, even from a very weak source. The worst attack on every marriage always comes from within. A happy marriage is a union of two lovers who resolve to live together as one in love, peace, and unity, irrespective of their weaknesses or differences. No one can separate spouses who resolve to live together, just as no one can unite spouses who resolve not to live together. 6. There is no romance without finance. The amount of money you have determines many things about your life, even your choice of a marriage partner and the quality of life you will enjoy with your spouse. There are financial requirements for marriage. You are not qualified to go into marriage, especially as a man, if you have no means of earning a living, because you will have numerous financial challenges with your spouse. Even as a woman, it will be in your interest to have some contributions to the financial challenges in your marriage. 7. There will always be a correlation between your happiness and the success of your marriage. There is a relationship between how happy you are in life and how successful your marriage is. You cannot be happy while you have an unhappy marriage. It is also difficult to be unhappy in life while you have a happy marriage. When you have an unhappy marriage, your house will be the last place you will want to be at any time because it will be hell for you. This is the reason you should not treat issues about your marriage with levity. There is no sacrifice that is too much to make to have a happy marriage. 8. There is neither a perfect spouse nor a perfect marriage. A perfect person is someone who is faultless, flawless, and who cannot err, make mistake, or offend anyone. But such person does not exist on earth. Just as there is no perfect person, there is also no perfect spouse. This is the reason you cannot have everything you desire in your spouse, just as your spouse also cannot have everything he or she desires in you. Furthermore, there is no perfect marriage anywhere in the world because only perfect people and perfect spouses can make a perfect marriage. Do you know that there is no married person who has not, at least for once, had regret for the spouse? Do you also know that there is no couple who does not have misunderstanding with each other? Whenever you have a misunderstanding with your spouse, you should be consoled with the fact that there is no perfect spouse or perfect marriage. However, this should not be a justification for not being committed to one's marriage. A good marriage does not require perfect people. Rather, it requires imperfect people who are jointly committed to striving towards perfection. 9. No two marriages are exactly the same. What works in another marriage may not work in your marriage, while what works in your marriage may not work in another marriage. Consequently, you should not use another marriage or spouse as a standard to judge yours, or use your marriage or spouse as the standard to judge another person's marriage or spouse. You should not admire any married person because of what you believe he or she enjoys in his or her marriage, because things do not always appear the way they really are. Do you know that you may be comparing the outside of another person's marriage with the inside of your marriage? Most people make the inside of their marriage invisible to others, even to their closest friends and relations. The interesting thing is that some couples you admire are not as happy in their marriages as you are in yours. 10. You should never take your spouse for granted. You should never take your spouse for granted, no matter the advantage you feel you have over him or her. For instance, you should not take your spouse for granted because you are the breadwinner of the family while he or she is unemployed or underemployed. The old maxim remains true: no condition is permanent. Appreciating little love from your spouse inspires and encourages him or her to love you more every day. Do you know that the feelings of your spouse for you can expire with time if you continue to take them for granted? People get tired of loving their spouse when they are not appreciated. Besides, whenever you take your spouse for granted, you teach him or her to live without you. The things you did to win the heart of your spouse are also required to sustain your relationship with him or her. It is not likely that you can sustain your marriage if you continue to ignore or take your spouse for granted. 11. You cannot enjoy your marriage if you cannot make your spouse happy. To a very large extent, How you treat your spouse determines how he or she also treats you. Consequently, you should give your best to your spouse if you want to get the best from him or her. Do you know that some spouses are not just mirrors, but magnifying glasses? They magnify whatever you give them and return it to you. The best way to make yourself happy is to make your spouse happy. Anyone who hates the spouse hates himself or herself. Anyone who treats the spouse badly also treats himself or herself badly. How you treat your spouse is how you treat yourself. 12. A happy marriage is a union of two good forgivers. Marriage is a union of two imperfect people. This is the reason couples cannot avoid offending and hurting each other, irrespective of how they love each other. It is also obvious that every offense injures a relationship. In the absence of forgiveness, the injuries that are inflicted on a marriage through offenses between the spouses cannot be repaired. This is the reason a happy marriage is a union of two good forgivers. It is also very instructive to note that every married person should endeavor to abstain from any action that hurts or offends the partner, especially when he or she is forgiven. 13. Do not marry someone you do not love. The love you have for your spouse is the only force that motivates you to remain in your marriage when there is crisis or misunderstanding in it. This is the reason you should not marry someone you do not love. You should not marry someone just because he or she is beautiful or handsome. There are physical qualities that fade with time. You should also not marry someone just because he or she is rich. Money alone cannot make you happy in marriage. Besides, the person you marry because he or she is rich today may become poor tomorrow. You should marry someone because of your love for him or her. 14. Love is not enough in marriage. Though love is necessary for a happy and successful marriage, it is insufficient to guarantee a happy and successful marriage. The fact that a husband and wife truly love each other does not guarantee a successful marriage. There are other essentials for a happy and successful marriage. They include trust, patience, honesty, perseverance, sacrifice, and so on. A marriage cannot survive without these essentials of marriage, even while there is love. This is the reason couples should endeavor to spice their marriage with these essentials of a happy and successful marriage. 15. You should be faithful to your spouse at all times. All things being equal, you are expected to live with your spouse for the rest of your life. This is the reason a spouse is called a life partner. You are not expected to change your spouse after a while because it could be a mark of an irresponsible life. Nothing breaks a marriage more than infidelity. Nothing breaks the heart of someone in marriage more than the infidelity of the partner. You should endeavor to be faithful to your spouse at all times because it is one of the signs that you truly love him or her. As a matter of fact, infidelity will not be a challenge if you truly love your spouse. Besides, infidelity is one of the obvious marks of an irresponsible spouse. 16. Be the right spouse. It is very disappointing that most married people want to have the right spouse, but are not interested in being the right spouse. Your spouse will likely be a reflection of what you are to him or her. It is not likely that your spouse will give you his or her best, while you exhibit your worst in your marriage. Contrary to a popular idea that holds that creating a happy marriage begins with choosing the right spouse, creating a happy marriage actually begins with being the right spouse. You should be the right spouse if you want to have the right spouse. You should also give your best to your spouse if you want to enjoy his or her best. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, you should click the link below to subscribe to this YouTube channel if you are visiting this channel for the first time, or if you have been visiting this channel but has not subscribed to it. You should also turn on the notification bell so that you will be informed whenever a new video is published in this channel. I hope to meet you again in the next video. Thanks for watching.